Hello, everybody. How are you all doing today? This is Dorothy, and this is Dorothy's blog. This is where I come to tell my story every week or every other week. So, guys, I'm going to continue with my story today. One thing I have realized during the course of this my storytelling is that I've realized that life no balance. Let me just say it the way Nigerians say it. This life is just not it at all. It's not it. Because who will ever tell me of all people, that I will fall into this type of nonsense? I will never believe it. I will never believe it. Because I grew up as a strong person. My father, especially, trained me up to be tough. And when I was getting all this training, I felt like he hated me. If you had followed my story from 2016-17, though that channel has been deleted, if you followed my story from then, you would have maybe heard my story about how my father was very tough. He was the type of man that would wake you up around 4 in the morning to go and fetch water. Regardless of the fact that we had a tap water in the house, he would still ask me to go and fetch water from the public tap. And I will fetch this water until I fill the drum, and we don't really use it. The next day, if he feels like I need to go again, he will pour it all away or use it for something, wash his car or whatever, and then send me back to the public tap again. And my father did so many things that I felt like he was being wicked and mean to me. It got to a point, one Christmas we went to the village, and I snuck out of the house, and I went to 3 of my uncles to ask them if my father was really my father. And these uncles chased me out of their house like, who put that to you? Come on, get out. But they did not take it for granted. Within 2 hours, 3 of them came to my father, to my compound. And they called my father and asked him, whatever you're doing to this girl that makes her think that you're not her father, please stop it. And my father broke down. He was like, no, I'm just trying to make her strong, make her bold, make her like a strong person. I'm just teaching her to face life and things like that. And my mom wouldn't take it. My mom was just like, you're just too tough on this girl. You're too tough on her. And it's funny because I'm their only daughter. So people felt like my mother should be pampering me and worshiping the ground that I stepped on and do everything. But my parents were not like that at all. They were very tough with me. And that's why a lot of people, when I was growing up in my street, they kept asking my mom, Mama, how did you do it? How did you train your daughter like this? So this daughter that got all this training, I went to Togo and I faced tough times because my first husband was just too, how would I say, it was tough. That my father had to come from Nigeria to come move my things out of his house. That was how tough and bad it was. So when I got into this second marriage, I was like, I'm going to live my life now. I'm going to live as a strong woman now. I'm going to, utilize every training that my parents gave to me, because they said they were training me. And guys, I didn't know that they were really training me up until I got to America and I started facing things and I saw the way I was, fighting these battles. People will look at me, they won't even know that I'm going through something. The only thing I went through in America that really broke me is the death of my daughter. This is the only thing that made people to know that I was going through a tough time. Her death just made me, I broke to pieces. Up till now, I'm still trying to pick myself up. And I don't seem to be able to do it. So my parents gave me all that training. So when I was living in Togo as a single mother of one, I thought I was super, which I know I was, but when things happen to you, you will now feel like, oh, I really didn't know anything. You feel like you were not really ready for it. So that's why I said what I said. So when I lived in Togo, I thought I had seen it all. When my first husband left, when I left him and I stayed on my own, I became very tough. Yeah, I became very tough. I wouldn't even say hi to a man. I mean, I would greet men, but I wouldn't even give you the chance to come close to me, to talk to me. I was so tough that everybody was like, what type of pride is this? Is this pride? Especially men, when they come to try me and they don't get, or they don't succeed, they time it to be pride. So I was living like that for a very long time, up until I met with this evil man, the man that I eventually married and brought to America. I was living this good and nice life that every man wanted me. Every man wanted me. I'm not kidding you. Is it from church? From outside? Because what happened is that during those times, I just buried myself in the church. And I wasn't kidding. I lived a life of a child of God. I did not deviate to anything. I was just straightforward with my God. I'll go to church and I'll come back, and the rest is just being inside the house. You don't see me going about. You don't see me going to any party. You don't see me doing anything. I kept myself to myself because I was trying to give my son a good upbringing. So when I look at all those days, and I look at all the things that I went through, and I see that I still fell into the hand of this evil person, it beats me. Yeah, it beats me because, like I said, I was tough. I wouldn't even give you a chance to stand beside me to talk. I say, man, to tell me something. I wouldn't even give you that chance. By the time you look at my face, you'll find your way. So for me to be able to get attracted to this man, I don't know how it happened. But I won't say I don't know how it happened. Everything looked good. Everything looked so good that you cannot even doubt this man. I didn't doubt him. I couldn't even doubt him. I couldn't even place any fault on him. At first I told you how I met him. My brother used to trade in Togo. One of my cousins used to come to Togo to buy goods. And he never knew I lived in Togo. So one evening I was just going down the streets. I came out of my house and I was just going down to pick something from just the next house. I think I was going to pick something. I've forgotten what, maybe a video from my neighbor or something. And then I came out of the gate and I kept walking. Normally my house has 2 or 3 magazines. They call them magazines. That's warehouses where Nigerian men put their goods. So whenever I come out, I normally see a lot of men there. Sometimes I would just wave and walk past because I didn't want any of them to talk to me or anything. But that day I passed and I was just going, and I heard a voice, and that voice sounded like my cousin's voice. And I said, yeah, that's Chinedu's voice. And I turned around and it was him. It was my cousin. So I shouted, we jubilated, we jumped on each other, we did all kinds of things. And I said, what are you doing here? He said, I come here to buy goods every time. He lives in Aba, but he comes to Togo to buy goods. So that way, I turned around with him and we got into my house. And that was how this evil man came with him, because he was his friend. He was the person he normally buy goods from. So he brought him inside. He said, this is my friend, whenever I come to Togo, I stay with him and I buy goods and I leave. But now that I know you, I'm going to be staying with you. I said, no problem. So my cousin stayed for a few days that time and left. And after that, whenever he comes, he will come. And whenever he comes, this man will tag along, come with him. And that was how he started coming to my place. And whenever my brother leaves, I don't give him that chance of coming to my place. I only let him come when my cousin is around. So this lingered on for about a year or so. And then suddenly my cousin started telling me, oh, he likes you, he wants to marry you, blah, blah, blah. My cousin told me every good thing about him. He's a responsible man, he's a Christian, he's this, that. I said, okay, where is his hometown? My cousin told me. So I didn't say anything. I said, well, once I see he's getting serious, I'll ask my parents to go do a background check on him. And that was what happened. When he kept talking and I found out he was serious, I told my parents, and my mother and some other people went to locate his village, and they checked everything out. He was okay. His background was clean, There was nothing hidden about him and everything. And my mom came back, called me and said, we went to check, he's okay. If he's serious, you can, see what it is. So apart from that, whenever my parents came to Togo, he would come and, take them out to the bar. When I say bar, I mean place where they sell suya and all kinds of things, and they'll eat and drink. Sometimes he would bring those things to the house. He was always coming to see them whenever they were around. And I did not see anything wrong with that. I was just using that opportunity to look at him to see what he was up to. And this lingered on for another year. So this is 2 years now. I was just looking and looking and looking. And at a point, I started giving him like, okay, I think he's a good person. I think he's good enough. So I remember after about a year of me talking closely with him, that's after that first year of me just knowing him, the next year of me talking with him, I decided to go know where he lived. I said, let me see where you live, because that was part of what I wanted to use to assess him. So I I got to the house and I saw where he lived. And at the entrance of that house, at the gate, there was a lady selling some kind of things, like a kiosk type of setting. She was selling some things. And when this lady saw me, she just looked at me one kind, Nigerians to say one kind. She looked at me in a very funny way. So, and I came inside and I said, who was that lady? He said, which lady? I said, the one at the gate, the one selling things. He said, oh, she's my landlord's daughter. I said, okay. I said, well, the way she looked at me, I don't know. He said, no, she's just my landlord's daughter. And I took that in. Up until after a while, I noticed that the lady was heavily pregnant. That was like one time I visited again. And I said, are this your landlord's daughter? She's pregnant? He said, yes, she's pregnant. I said, okay. I said, where's her husband? He said, her husband is not around. And it didn't sound funny to me, because Togolese, most of them live in their father's house. Even when they marry, they'll still come and stay in their father's house. So it wasn't a funny thing to me. So this went on up until we went for the traditional marriage. Excuse me. When we went for the traditional marriage, we finished and we came back to Togo. The first day I was spent in that house, this same woman came and attacked me in the bedroom. That day I was just laying down. You know how you just lay in your bed and you were reading or something, and then I finally dozed off because my husband was outside talking to his boys. So I dozed off, and then I woke up to somebody punching me right there on my bed. This woman was punching me, shouting that I'm a husband snatcher. You took my husband. And I'm like, who is this? I jumped up. I couldn't even defend myself because this woman was all over me. And my ex-husband and the boys rushed inside, and they pulled her apart, pulled her away. I asked him, I said, this woman said you are her husband. What is that? He said, don't mind her. He said, these Togolese men, Togolese ladies, they always like to attach themselves to Nigerians, and which is true. So I'm like, are you sure you have nothing with her? He said, no, I don't have anything with her. I said, but what audacity does she have to come into the bedroom and fight me, which means she knows her way around this house? He said she's the landlord's daughter, so she knows her way. So, guys, I'm telling this story now because that was a red flag. That was a red flag, but I got upset. I left his house. I stayed away from him for some weeks, and I was so upset. And he eventually was able to convince me that there was nothing between them. And I went back to that place, I think about 2 weeks later. I didn't see that woman at the gate or anything. I did not know that was when she had her baby. So obviously she went back to somewhere that she lived. I don't know. She went somewhere. So I asked after the lady, said, oh, she's not here anymore. She doesn't live here anymore. Why am I bringing up all this story? I am bringing up all this story because nobody would have thought that I would have fallen a victim to a gigolo, because that's what this man is. He's a gigolo. When we got to America and he decided to elope with a woman, that was when it all dawned on me that, when he was in Togo, he lived with that lady. That lady was the landlord's daughter, according to him. And it was after this whole thing happened that I was able to find out that the lady he was married to that lady in Togo just because he needed to get himself, get all the papers to be in Togo and everything to do business. I think the lady showed him the way and helped him out with all those things. And that was why he married her. Or he was befriending her. Because he swore he never married her. He said he didn't have anything to do with her. And then when we got to America, he used me to come to America. So as soon as he got to America, he was able to relocate to another woman to stay with the woman. And guys, what do you think happened to that woman? After a while, he saw a better woman and he went to the better woman. And after that, he still married another person. And this is how this man has been going around in America. And like I told you, I placed a curse on them. I was angry and I told them that they will suffer what they did to me. I mean, the family. And this man has still been going about with women. If I could count it right now, I think he's not even with anyone. The two he married in America, the marriage broke up. And then he had to go back to Nigeria to marry a lady, did wedding with the lady, only to divorce the lady after the lady had a child or two. His life has been going from one woman to the other. Going from one woman to the other. And why am I making this video? I'm just making these videos for ladies to please look well. All that glitters can never be gold. If I had looked at this whole thing, it hurt me that I was used as a scapegoat. God, I must say God, but life used me as a scapegoat, and I'm not going to be useless. It's painful that I'm a scapegoat, but I'm not going to be useless scapegoat because I'm going to let people know what I went through so that nobody else will go through that part. Once you start dating a man and there's doubt in your heart, there's a little bit of doubt in your heart, let that person go. Yeah, let that person go. Once there's a little doubt, once there's something like you feel like you don't belong, let that person go. Because the greatest spy that God put in us is our instinct. That is the only thing that can spy out things and tell you how to go about things that you don't really understand. And most of us are not using our instincts. Once your instinct tells you this is what you should do, why don't you give it a try and you do it? 100% of the time that we listen to our instincts, we never make mistakes. But anytime that you have that something is, anytime you're doing something with somebody and there's a doubt in your heart, and you keep on going, or you go ahead to do it, you always come back in regrets. I know most of you know I'm saying the truth. So once you see a man who comes your way, the first thing you use in knowing them is when they start talking about financial things. When you just met a man and then suddenly he starts telling you, oh, I needed to do this, but I couldn't do it because I don't have enough money. Please run. Because it happened with this man. But I didn't think it as anything. I just overlooked it. Once you're dating a man and you tell the man, let me see your friends, and he said, oh, I don't have any friends, run. Because it happened to me. Right there in Togo, I was asking him, I don't even know any of your friends. Where are your friends? Oh, I don't mingle with people. I'm always by myself. I don't have any friend. And I believed him. But you know why? He didn't want me to know his friends. Even after this traditional marriage, I still did not meet his friends. And I said, okay, he's a quiet person. Maybe that's his lifestyle. Because he will go to work and come back and that's it. So how would I know that he has friends that he doesn't want me to know? But I'm sure he had friends. But the fact remains that he didn't want me to know about his friends, or he didn't want me to get too close to them. And that brings me to when I was coming to America and he told me I have no family here. Because a lot of people have been asking me, oh, he told you he told you not to go to his family and you went ahead to go. He did not tell me not to go because he wanted to protect me. No, he did not tell me. He didn't want me to go there because their initial plan was, when it comes to Maryland, to Upper Marlboro where I was staying, he would disappear to Baltimore. That was their plan. So when I discovered the brother in Baltimore, it messed up their plan. So they had to move it to Pennsylvania, because that's where he went to. So when you are dealing with someone and you start having doubts, or you catch that person in lies, just move on. I saw so many things that I would have, that would have woken me up from this whole thing. But I overlooked them because I was like, he looks very responsible. This man looks very responsible, like somebody who wants to really settle down. Then he was in his early 40s. So he looked like somebody who really wanted to settle down. He didn't look like somebody who wants to play games. So if you're going to say, oh, why didn't you know by his character? They will cover everything up. But once your instinct tells you something is wrong, please run. Run. Gigolos are very, very manipulative. They are super manipulative. And that was what I went through. From Togo, I had to fight the woman in Togo. I didn't fight the man. The woman beat me up in Togo. And when I came here, he left me and went to the next woman. And when he left the next woman, he went to another woman. And then he was trying to come back to me. And I told him, the last time he asked me to come back to him, I said, if you are the last man on earth, I'd rather stay single. If I had given him that chance, he would have come back. Because now he knows I'm settled somehow. He will want to come and stay here, rent-free. Because that's what such men do. Any man who would not be ashamed of living in your house without paying the mortgage or the rent is not a man. And that was what he was trying to do at that point if I did not stop him. He wanted to come here. He was begging every day, let's just come together so we can fight and get this child out. I said, no, we don't have to be together to fight and get this child out. The only thing that made him to start asking me or begging me that time was because his marriage was broken. He was ready to leave that one and come to me. But God gave me the wisdom to say no. And ever since I got into this trap with my husband, and then getting into this other family that took my child, I've always used my instincts. And I think things have always gone good, regardless of the fact that I was not able to get my daughter out. Guys, the Bible says the heart is so wicked and nobody knows what's in the heart. And that is the truth. So when dealing with men, know that their hearts could be dark. Even dealing with women, because it's both ways. It's both ways. You have gigolos and you have gold diggers who only come to you because of what they need from you. And as soon as they get it, they're on the way to the next woman. So if you're careful, if only you can be careful. And you cannot be careful except you hear stories like this. So, me coming out here to talk about myself is not because I don't know what to do with my time, but I took it upon myself that having gone through all this nonsense, I'll make sure that I enlighten women. I make sure that no woman can go through it anymore. So please, keep your eyes open. Because I know some young girls here watch me. Keep your eyes open and make sure you don't get involved with a gigolo.